Cops slapped a black woman in court. Seconds later, she took the judge's seat. In a courtroom meant for justice, a black woman was slapped across the face, not by a criminal, but by the very cops sworn to uphold the law. But seconds later, the truth about who she really was silenced the entire courtroom. They thought she was just another nobody to push around. But when this woman stood up, the courtroom discovered her true identity, and the officers who humiliated her never saw what was coming. Imagine being slapped in a courtroom, laughed at, and treated like dirt, only to reveal you were the judge of that very courthouse. That's exactly what happened on this unforgettable day. The courtroom was supposed to be a place of justice, but that morning it became a place of humiliation. A black woman stood quietly in the gallery, holding a folder of papers close to her chest. She had come only to observe, but instead she became a target. Two officers approached her, whispering crude remarks, before one suddenly slapped her across the face. The sound cracked through the chamber like a gunshot. Laughter followed from the officers, while the woman staggered back, clutching her cheek. People in the gallery gasped, but looked away, afraid to intervene. To them she looked powerless, just another victim of unchecked authority. The officers smirked, proud of their display of dominance. But what no one realized was that the woman they had just struck down was not powerless at all. In fact, she held more power in that courthouse than anyone present. The woman did not cry, she did not scream. Instead, she stood upright, eyes steady, breathing controlled. The officers laughed again, one nudging the other. What's she going to do? She's nothing. Their arrogance filled the room, drowning out the whispers of the shocked spectators. But then, with a voice calm and steady, the woman spoke. Are you finished? The sound was soft, yet it sliced through the air like steel. The laughter died instantly. The gallery fell into silence, curiosity rising. How could someone stand so composed after such humiliation? The officers frowned, uneasy now, sensing something wasn't right. The woman slowly opened the folder she had been holding, revealing documents and a tablet glowing with evidence. Her hand did not tremble. Her eyes did not break. And in that moment, the power balance in the courtroom began to shift. She tapped the tablet, and the courtroom speakers filled with the chilling sound of body cam audio. Martinez's voice snarled, cruel and unfiltered. These people need to learn their place. Then came laughter, Officer Thompson's mocking tone, Rodriguez's dismissive words. Their cruelty echoed for everyone to hear. The room shifted, uneasily. Even the prosecutor lowered her head, rifling nervously through papers, desperate to distance herself. The woman advanced the video, and the crowd saw the unthinkable. Footage of the very moment Martinez struck her, captured from his own body cam. Gasps spread across the room like wildfire. There was no denying what had happened. The officers looked at each other, panic spreading across their faces. For the first time, their smirks were gone. The woman's voice carried clearly, "Gentlemen, would you like to revise your testimony?" They had walked into court thinking they owned it, but now the floor was slipping beneath them. The officers began edging toward the exit, sweat beading on their brows. But the woman wasn't done. She gestured toward the bench, toward the great seal mounted on the wall, toward the oil painting hanging proudly in the courthouse lobby. "You asked me for employment verification," she said evenly. "Well, here it is." And with that, she walked past the stunned bailiffs and sat in the judge's chair. The gallery erupted in whispers. Every eye widened as realization struck. Like lightning. This woman, the one they slapped, mocked, and dismissed, was Judge Kesha Williams, the presiding judge of that very courthouse. The officer's knees buckled. Martinez clutched the prosecutor's table for balance. The silence was deafening as Kesha's voice echoed through the chamber. "I have presided in this courthouse for 23 years. Every case you've testified in, every warrant you've requested, every word you've spoken under oath, all of it has been under my authority. Judge Williams stood tall, her robe flowing like a shield of justice. You thought I was powerless because I am a black woman. You thought I was nobody. But I have spent my life fighting for those you trample. She listed her history: Harvard Law, editor of the Harvard Law Review, federal prosecutor for the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. She recited her record: 47 successful prosecutions against corrupt officers, over $15,000 cases presided over in her judicial career. Each word struck the officers like a hammer. Martinez stammered, I didn't know. Judge Williams's eyes locked on him. You didn't know because you didn't care. You looked at me and saw only your prejudice. You chose to abuse your power. And now your own actions have delivered the justice you never thought you'd face. The gallery sat frozen, hearts pounding, as the scale of her revelation sank in. Judge Williams picked up a thick file. Let us review your career, officer. Martinez. She opened page after page, 47 complaints spanning 15 years. Each time the department had dismissed them as unsubstantiated. Rosa Delgado, a grandmother slammed into her car hood. Jamal Washington, a teenager framed with planted drugs. Dr. Johnson, a black cardiologist arrested outside his own home. The courtroom shifted uncomfortably as each story was read aloud. Lives scarred by one man's abuse of power. You called me a filthy animal this morning, Judge Williams said, her voice heavy with controlled fire. But the truth is, your record proves who the real criminal is. The officers looked small now, their arrogance drained away. Even their attorney had his head in his hands. Martinez had spent years mocking justice. Now justice was turning every page of his past against him, and there was nowhere left to hide. She turned to a chart, placing it on display. Arrest statistics revealed a chilling truth. Over 1,000 arrests, 87% against people of color in a district that was less than half minority. Force used in 63% of those arrests against minorities compared to just 12% against white suspects. Nearly 40% of his cases dismissed for constitutional violations. And worse, $2.3 million in taxpayer money paid out in settlements because of his misconduct. The gallery gasped in disbelief. The reporters' pens scratched furiously, recording every word. Martinez croaked, I was just doing my job. Judge Williams's reply was cutting. Your job was to uphold the Constitution. Instead, you violated it, again and again, and today you answered to the one person you could not. Silence. The officers' faces drained of color. Their careers, reputations, and freedom hung by a thread, unraveling in front of everyone. Judge Williams lifted her gavel, her voice echoing with centuries of law. You assaulted a federal judge. You deprived citizens of their rights. You lied. Under oath. Officer Martinez, you told me to know my place. Well, here's yours, the defendant's chair. The gavel struck like thunder. Martinez collapsed into his seat, shaking uncontrollably. Tears streamed down his face. I'm sorry, he whispered. Judge Williams shook her head. Your apology is 15 years too late. Your remorse exists only because you got caught, and justice will not be fooled by tears. The courtroom was silent, every breath held as the weight of her words sank in. Martinez, once arrogant, now sat a broken man, but his punishment was only just beginning. Judge Williams leaned forward, preparing to deliver the sentence that would echo far beyond that room. Officer Martinez, she declared, I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison without parole. You will never again wear a badge or wield authority over another human being. Martinez's sobs filled the courtroom, but the gavel's echo drowned them out. Then Judge Williams added, and every case you touched, every life you scarred, will be reopened. Justice denied will finally be justice restored. The gallery erupted in applause, thunderous and unending. Lawyers, reporters, citizens, all on their feet, clapping, cheering, crying. For once justice was not delayed. It was delivered, clear and undeniable. Martinez sat slumped, his hands covering his face, as the applause washed over him. His reign of fear had ended, his badge was gone, and the judge he tried to break had just rewritten history. 6 months later, the ripple effects still shook the nation. Wrongfully convicted people were freed. Corrupt officers were dismissed. Police reforms were implemented, with new oversight boards and mandatory accountability. The courthouse itself was renamed the Justice Williams Federal Courthouse, a bronze plaque declaring, "Here, justice finally found its voice." Judge Williams became a national symbol of courage. Her story inspired law students, lawyers, and ordinary citizens to believe again in justice. And Officer Martinez? He sat in a prison cell, powerless, finally understanding the pain he had inflicted for years. The irony was cruel. The man who once thought he knew everyone's place now lived in the smallest place of all, a prison cell. Judge Williams ended her final speech to the nation with a message that echoed in every heart. Justice may be blind, but she sees everything, and when the time is right, she strikes back. In a cold gray prison cell, Martinez sat on the edge of his bunk. The same man who once strutted around with a badge now wore an orange jumpsuit. His eyes were hollow. No reporters, no authority, no power, only silence. Each day, inmates reminded him who he once was. "Hey, cops, still think you're tough?" The irony was heavy. The man who once abused others now lived under constant fear, powerless against those he once mocked. Judge Williams received dozens of letters from victims who had once suffered under Martinez. One by one, she read their words, tears staining the pages. A young man wrote, "You believed me when no one else did." A mother wrote, "Because of you, my son is free today." These weren't just words. They were proof that her fight had meaning. For every life Martinez broke, there was now a chance for healing. Late one evening, Judge Williams sat alone in her chambers, holding a worn photograph of her mother. She remembered being a little girl, watching her mother cry after being denied housing because of the color of her skin. That pain had shaped her. That pain had driven her to law school. That pain had prepared her for this moment. She whispered to the photograph, "Mama, we made it. Justice found us." The case ignited a firestorm across the nation. News channels replayed the footage. Protesters filled streets demanding change. For the first time, officers faced real accountability. Departments were audited. Supervisors investigated. Politicians who once ignored complaints now scrambled to introduce reforms. What started as a single courtroom confrontation had become a movement, and at the center of it all stood Judge Kesha Williams. At a nearby university, law students replayed Judge Williams's speech again and again. A young black woman named Alana raised her fist and declared, "If she can do it, so can I." Dozens of students decided to pursue careers in law, inspired by her courage. For them, Judge Williams was no longer just a judge. She was proof that justice could wear their face, speak in their voice, and fight their battles. In prison, Martinez kept replaying that moment, the slap, the laughter, the smirk on his face. Now it haunted him. He realized how blind he had been, how deeply he had underestimated the woman before him. "I thought she was nothing," he whispered to himself, "but she was everything." Regret flooded him, but it was too late. The world had moved on, and his legacy was sealed in disgrace. Judge Williams was invited to speak at a national summit on justice reform. Standing before thousands, she said, "Justice is not a favor, it is a right. And when those in power forget, this the people must remind them. That day in court, I was not just a judge. I was every person who has ever been silenced, slapped, or mocked." And together we rose. The crowd erupted in cheers and tears. Judge Williams didn't stop at the courtroom. She visited communities scarred by police violence. She sat with mothers who had lost sons, with families who had been torn apart. She listened, hugged, and cried with them. Her presence wasn't just legal, it was human. People finally felt seen. They finally believed that the system could care. Months later, a bronze statue was unveiled outside the courthouse. It depicted Judge Williams standing tall, gavel in hand, with the inscription, "Justice may be blind, but she sees everything." Children posed for pictures. Families touched the statue for strength. It wasn't just metal, it was hope, cast in stone, a reminder that courage could outlast cruelty. One quiet evening, Judge Williams walked alone into the empty courtroom. She touched the bench where she had once revealed her true identity. She whispered softly, "This is where they tried to break me, and this is where justice broke them." She looked up at the seal of justice, her heart steady, her eyes bright. Her story had become larger than her. It belonged to everyone who believed in truth, in dignity, and in the unstoppable power of justice. Months into his sentence, Martinez wrote a shaky letter to Judge Williams. In it, he admitted, "For years I thought strength meant control, but you showed me that true power is dignity. I can't undo the past, but I hope one day I'll be remembered for learning." Judge Williams read it quietly, placing it in a drawer. Forgiveness would not come easy, but even the hardest hearts could change. Alone at night, Judge Williams sometimes questioned herself. Was she too harsh? Had she allowed her personal pain to fuel her ruling? Yet, when she reread the victims' letters, her doubts faded. Justice had not been revenge, it had been restoration. And restoration was what the nation needed. In the courtroom that day, a little black girl had sat with her mother. She saw the slap. She saw the reveal. She saw the justice. Months later, she told her teacher, "I want to be a judge too, because judges don't let bullies win." That child carried a new vision of her future because of one powerful moment. Documentaries, talk shows, and books flooded the nation. Some called it the day justice spoke. Others simply called it the slap. But Judge Williams reminded everyone, this was never about a slap. This was about a system, and systems can change if we make them. In a small town, Martinez's aging mother wept as she saw her son's downfall on television. She remembered raising him with hope, never imagining his cruelty. She wrote to Judge Williams not to excuse him, but to thank her. "You saved others from the man my son became, and maybe now, in prison, he can find the man I once knew." Applications to law schools surged. Young people from marginalized communities felt empowered to enter a system that once rejected them. Professors called it the Williams effect, a wave of fresh voices determined to carry the torch of justice higher than ever before. One of Martinez's former colleagues, racked with guilt, came forward. He admitted he had seen the abuse for years but stayed silent out of fear. Inspired by Judge Williams, he now testified against corrupt practices. His courage cracked open investigations across multiple precincts. The ripple grew larger. Judge Williams received the nation's highest civilian honor. Standing at the podium, medal around her neck, she said, "This medal does not belong to me. It belongs to every voice that was ignored, every case dismissed, every mother who cried for justice. Today, they are heard." One Sunday, Judge Williams visited the grave of a wrongfully killed young man whose mother had once begged for justice. She laid fresh flowers and whispered, "Your story mattered. I carried it with me every day, and today the world knows your name." The wind carried her words, as if the earth itself was listening. Years later, when Judge Williams finally retired, she left behind more than rulings. She left behind a story of resilience, justice, and truth. Children in schools studied her case, courtrooms displayed her quotes, and her most famous words became timeless. "Justice may be blind, but she sees everything. And when she sees enough, she rises. And that's how truth finally found its voice. If this story touched you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes in real justice. Because together, we keep the truth alive. Every victim deserves their day in court, and every voice deserves to be heard. If you believe in that, hit the like button, subscribe for more true stories, and let's keep shining a light where others want darkness. What happened here proves one thing: no one is above the law. If you stand with justice, tap like, subscribe for more powerful stories, and let's build a community where truth always wins. This wasn't just one story. It was a reminder that change is possible. Help us spread it. Like this video, subscribe for more, and share it so the world never forgets. Justice always rises. Justice spoke today, and it will speak again. Like, subscribe, and stay with us for the next story that the world needs to hear.